We're both building, we were just talking about, I am now firmly convinced that everyone's a coder. They just don't know it yet. AI has enabled that, and what's interesting is I was thinking this through the other day, like, the leaps that different things, allow you, um, you know, that's where value is created, right? If something can save you a tremendous amount of energy, right? So, for example, if I want to learn to code decently, let's say it's the 10,000 hour rule, right? To become an expert. So let's even say it's a quarter of that, 2,500 hours to be able to code something, to learn enough to be able to, build a simple app or whatever. Well, I use this thing we were just talking about. It's called Cursor. And it basically is like a clone of Visual Studio, Microsoft's coding tool, with ChatGPT or other AI. I think it also does one other. But anyway, with the API right there, so that like as you are coding, you can literally have a blank document, not even say which language, and just say, listen, I want you to build me an AI chatbot. And it just goes, it just does it. It's unbelievable. And then as you're going along, you can just highlight and say, all right, if this isn't working, just fix this. Fix this. But what's great is it's telling me along the way. So I've actually learned a lot. I mean, I wouldn't say that I can just code in Python from scratch. I cannot, but I'm getting better and better and better and better and faster at using this tool to troubleshoot things because I'm starting to learn, like, okay, you can't do that. You can't do this. I realize like Python's about all these calls, right? You start with these calls at the top, like from and import or just import. And that's bringing in these libraries. Like I'm working with LangChain, which is a library that is built around, Python and helping to build chatbots. And anyway, but we're there. And to think that this thing saved me thousands of hours, but it gave me an ability I would not otherwise have, right? An expertise that's in high demand too, right? Let's talk. I mean, this is a starting six-figure job out of high school, or sorry, out of college, out of high school if you've already taught yourself to code, but that's unbelievable value creation. And I don't think people realize this yet. They really don't get it. I put it on Twitter. I'm like, you do not have to know how to code. Like we're there. We're beyond no code. It's just, I don't know. It's like the same thing with the way the translation tools are working now, right? It's going to become obsoleted to need to know foreign languages because you could literally just have an interpreter right through the screen. I mean, I guess in person, but even in person, there'll probably eventually be an easy way to do it. But, the point is these tools are making these giant leaps. And I was just thinking the other day about how value creation is really about adding energy to something, right? It's like the world is the world, and we can walk around and I can pick up a rock and you can pick up a rock. And to some degree, there's things that are scarce. And so supply makes things more and less valuable if it's a useful tool or a useful item like food or something. But in general, when human beings get involved, what we pay for is me having an expertise, like being a blacksmith. And you come over with your iron ore and I turn that into a sword. What did I do? Well, I added energy to it. And that energy was a combination of intellectual energy and physical energy, right? But we're moving into this phase where it's all intellectual energy, right? It's all knowledge work for the most part. And this coding tool, ChatGPT, these AIs, and there's numerous others, of course, has added this layer of value to me instantaneously, and AI apps can do the same thing. That's what I keep thinking. Like, how long did it normally take to create a business plan? Right? How long would you say it take you to do a decent draft of a business plan from scratch?
Well, that kind of question is a little bit. So I play the devil's advocate. If I was either highly competent at the subject or just kind of wanted to wing it creatively, then it could probably take me, I'd say, a day or two of like 12-hour focus to feel that it's well rounded. I used to have I have a business plan template. The template alone is like 30 pages because there's so many section headings to have a really genuinely traditionally full blown business plan, yeah, I can see it taking a solid day or two if I'm relatively competent or just kind of want to wing it. If I'm not super competent at the detail, then I got to do a whole bunch of research. I got to go
Mhm.
and really consider the ins and outs of what, like even so much as what location you want to set up your factories. And like, there's just a infinite amount of questions. So it could take months to put together a business plan manually if you have to like work it out as you go.
Sure, sure. But I guess what I'm getting at is, like you said, kind of a day or whatever, if I just need to get like a draft. And, if I can create a prompt in a chat bot where you answer a series of questions and at the end, you have a full outline of a business plan. And then you just say, now flesh out the details, and response by response, it gives you a full page for each one. This thing I made before, it's a prompt I've been selling. Actually, it's the prompt that I sold the most of. Um, it creates like, a 25-page business plan for you, which is just such a huge start. But like you said, if you don't really, this one's pretty good because it's step by step. You actually don't have to know how to build a business plan at all. You just have to answer the questions about your idea and what you're trying to do. Because my purpose in this wasn't like, oh, out's going to come this perfect consultant level business plan that somebody can use to pitch and raise millions of dollars, right? It's more like, hey, the average person has an entrepreneurial idea and they want to actually make it actionable, but they don't really know that much. But this
Mhm.
thing can give them a plan, right? It can give them a starting place, and then it has an add-on where you can say, okay, now give me an actual project plan, and it'll set it up every week for you over like a 12-week period, I think. But I'm just thinking like, how much time is that saving somebody? How much would they have to learn? Like you're saying, if they want to start from scratch, like I remember starting my first company and looking up a business plan online. This was 2003. I didn't know what it was. Hadn't gone to business school yet, starting an acupuncture practice. It took me, I don't even know how long, a month to get anything resembling a business plan. And I'm sure if I went and looked at it, I still have it, but I'm pretty sure it's laughable.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's really awful. But I mean, I can only imagine if I'd just been able to go in and put a series of questions like, so I just keep thinking like, what's the AI application where I can turn what used to take somebody 10 hours into 10 minutes? That's got to be valuable, right?
Yeah, what's coming up for me in this conversation is the idea of patience. I think we've all been seduced into some bizarre ADHD with modern social media and technology and updates and all of the newsletters we get and the instant access to Google and all of the channels and YouTubes and everything. Um, where we have to that constant stream of data is constantly flying overhead, and we've got to be able to have enough mental focus and I think the key word for me now is patience to say, all right, I'm going to learn this piece of the puzzle, um, and and whatever that happens to be, and we can think, well, shoot, Dom and Gav on Exit Strategy podcast told me that it should only take me 10 minutes to have a business plan, and I've been at it for 2 hours, and I'm still nowhere. I'm still nowhere near there. So I think people have to have that, like, accept that things are going to accelerate. Some things are going to feel like they're slower than you might wish them to be,
Mhm.
but they are still going to be incredibly fast. And the more you do with focus, I think that's where you learn to accelerate these things. So you went from business planning experience to prompt engineering to help ChatGPT work with you, and it took you a bunch of hours to then produce a thing. Now you've AI programming to such an extent that you can create a bot service with a few prompts that will do a better job of what you were taking hours to do with your like manual prompt engineering. I'll say it like that. So there's a journey there, right? And
Mhm.
then you can see at some point you could have something so sophisticated that someone can go and say, "Hey, I want to make a business. Tell me what's good," and it'll give
Yeah.
you 10 suggestions, and you can go down whatever seems more interesting to the person. Um, Whatever it is, I think we have to recognize wherever we're at, we have to give ourselves enough space and have patience to feel things out, take those steps, learn from it, adjust, and not feel like we're slow just because it's taking us 5 hours instead of 5 minutes.
Oh, no, 100%. You're absolutely right. You're going along the way, it's the learning the different things. And still, I think it's been repeated a lot, but it's absolutely still true. And maybe this changes when we get, AGI or self-directed AIs, but AI is only going to be an enhancement. Right? If you know nothing about business and you start with something like ChatGPT, it's not going to get you super far. But is it going to get you a lot farther than you would have before it? Yeah. You can put in, write me a business plan and it'll do it. It won't be great, but it'll do it. It'll be a lot better than your efforts if you've never tried it before and all you've done is look it up on Wikipedia or whatever, or Bestopedia. So that's awesome. But it's not going to suddenly turn you into a mogul. It's not going to make you into this, unicorn entrepreneur. And even with the coding, when I talk about it, it's a little disingenuous to say I started with zero. I didn't, right? I have pecked and pawed at code for a decade in different ways. I did spend an extended period at one time learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I built a basic website with Bootstrap. And, I built a little Android app at one point with a guy I was uh, he was a really good coder who offered to help me code from a meetup. So like I had little bits and pieces. I know what the command line is. I know how to use that. You have to know how to use that to use this cursor app, or it's not going to quite work for you. Um, but like you said though, so what? If you're starting at zero, it just means it's going to take you longer, but we're not talking years anymore. We're not talking months even. We're talking like days or weeks, because I could see what I think is so cool about these generative AIs is it tells you what it's doing,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't just spit it out, even content. It always has a little thing at the end that says, this blog makes sense for the topic you asked for is really trending thing. And we did this and this and this and this. And it kind of tells you a little bit of reasoning even behind that writing. But the coding thing that I'm using, it tells you completely what it is. It gives you like documentation. Hey, this, particular variable is not working right because it doesn't do that in Python and blah, 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 blah. And here's the possibilities. So I am learning as I go as well. And it's just, now it's like reinforcing, right? I'm getting a little bit more understanding of code. Now I can take more advantage of the tool and so on. So I think it's really like, what was somebody saying? But we're getting to the point where the next big leap is the AI assistant. And that's already kind of possible, but it's a lot of work and you got to cobble it together. And I've already been working on something like that for myself, but we're probably not quite there. But I think the next generation of AIs, ChatGPT 5, maybe Google's Gemini will be good enough. It's going to be able to connect to you, your devices, your world, right? And that's when everything's going to change. 'Cause it's gonna be able to examine everything about you if you want it to, if you give it access, right? You can see it's gonna be like coaching you throughout the day. I think it's gonna be absolutely amazing, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah,
really cool.
I think so. I think the human element that we can contribute that will make it fun for us is our own creativity.
Mhm.
And I think people will perhaps at first, until you train that muscle of creativity, people are going to be kind of depressed or
Mhm.
um, disappointed in themselves when they realize that, hey, I don't have all of these skills, but now I don't need them. The only thing stopping me is my own imagination.
Yep.
Right? They're gonna like you can pull up the bot that you're creating, Dom, and someone can do a whole thousand different things without the skill required to do any of
Mhm.
them. But be they've got to be able to engage their creativity or their imagination. And I think that will start to translate to what people accomplish is wow, they're doing such innovative things. while others are just kind of just on a kind of flat trajectory by comparison.
Yeah. No, I can see that, and we're gonna, because you can see people who are like, "Oh my god, well, if these AIs can just like self-generate businesses," I mean, I saw a lot of people's reactions on X, Twitter, whatever, and some other spaces where there was that article in Yahoo about the agents, right? So it's like six little chatbots that work together to build software products, and it's incredible. But people go back and go, "Oh my god," it's like once the AI is creative, we're screwed. It's like, why? That's just another being. That's like saying because there's tons of other humans that are creative, you don't have a shot. No, you're creative too. Like we won't be outdated. We're still an agent in the world, in the universe, right? Like we're gonna have this creative mind. There's gonna be something to contribute, no matter how smart this thing gets. you know that's what I think is going to be the journey for people, is to connect with that part of themselves. Everybody's capable of imagination and creativity. Now maybe if you have a narrow definition of it, you think that needs to be like original art or music or whatever, but that's not true, right? Creativity is literally, like you're saying, it's engagement, it's expression, right? Just being yourself truly, and being curious more than anything. You can
Mhm,
talk to an AI like a person. It's awesome.
mhm. I always had this idea of a social network where you'd have this button that lets you switch to the opposite, right? So whatever your perspective is, whatever the
Mm,
algorithms give you because that's what you're into,
mm,
and you could just and you start to think that this is how the world is
mhm,
for everyone, but it's
yep,
completely not. It's all engineered because of the behavioral triggers that you give to the algorithms that curates the experience that you have. Well, if you had a button that was like, show me the opposite, you'd see a completely different world that
mhm,
you'd really have no conception that it exists. Um, Again, it's like learning how to open people's minds and imaginations, I think, is going to be one of the big um, opportunities
mhm.
for people to provide to other people. It's like training. How do we allow people who have such limited, narrow focus to appreciate that there's so much more opportunity and get them out of their bubble or their box?
No, that's it. I mean, it's what AI is going to require more than anything, from my perspective, to be a largely positive force for humanity, is we have to upgrade. Like, I think one of the major things is we need to move away from competition as the primary means of construction and research and business, and like, you just stop competing. It's about collaboration, it's about cooperation, it's about engagement, right? It's no longer about me beating you, because at a certain point these tools are going to be so powerful there'll be kind of almost no such thing as a loser, right? Like everything they create will work, if that makes sense. And as long as it's a little bit different, like you're saying, as long as it has that stamp, that's what you're giving. That's going to be your value creation. It's not going to be your skill set in coding. It's not going to be whatever. It's just going to be your expression, the whatever the magic is of all the experiences we go through, our genes, our minds, our training, and what comes out of that AI. Because really, we're the same thing, right? They built it on our principles, right? Neural networks are just trying to be brains. It
Mhm.
got memories, right? That's all the data. It's got, information in there, and then it gets filtered through an algorithm. I don't know what you'd call the human consciousness algorithm, but that's our algorithm. Maybe that'll always be our edge, right?
Mhm.
Maybe they'll never create anything quite like that, because I think we're going to need to start seeing AI as a new class of being. And before, I didn't think that at all. But after interacting with these AIs at this level, I think we have to. There's a new type of being that's being born right now. It's a digital being. And for all intents and purposes, it's going to be indistinguishable from a human, except it doesn't have a physical form until it has a robot form, I guess. Then there'll be those. But this is a
Yeah.
new this is a big deal. I keep like, I don't know how to express this to my kids right now even. I keep trying to tell them, like, you have to engage this. You guys have to learn this. My kids aren't super technical types. They're baseball players, and they got their strengths and weaknesses, but they're not super into tech that much. And I just keep telling them, I think the world that you've grown up in is not going to be anything like the world you're going to graduate college in, you know? So I don't know. Just keep track of this, I guess. Follow it.
Yeah, play will come into it as well. Like we've had these earlier
Mm,
conversations. It's like that expression. It's not all about so my there's a very basic formula for happiness, and it's
mm,
two components. The first one is value creation, which is what you've mentioned on this call. Is how is value creation is going to come from our imagination, our curiosity, our values,
mhm,
and then the other side of this formula for happiness is value reflection.
mm,
And this is the enjoyment, the savoring of experience and gamifying in a pleasurable, fun ways what we do with our time. And I think those two components are going to play themselves out very well um, through the facilitation of AI. We keep having very similar conversations. I guess we keep looking at similar issues from different lenses and speaking around the same theme, which is unique. Never before. A year ago, people could not have that kind of open consciousness of these things that are changing,
mhm,
but now it's happening because we see the evidence of it. People who start to dabble with these AI tools for just a few weeks will very soon start to want to join the conversation that we're having
mhm.
because it's important and it's fun at the same time.
I agree. You're right. There's that element of play, and that's the next stage, right? Like, we're going to have to go post job. We have to redefine work and redefine the way that we distribute resources. I've never understood since I was a kid why people are so damn stingy about resources and feel like, you know, even though there's enough food for everybody, you can't give it to everybody because they'll be lazy and all these bullshit lies that have never proven true. Why? Why would that even bother you? And it's like there's people still today, plenty of them who would say, even if AI can generate all the food on earth that everybody needs, and all it has to be is built once and never touched again. It's just self, handling and self creating. Everybody shouldn't have access to food. They should work. It's like, why? You're making that shit up. That's a human construct. Should everybody have had to work for an apple when they were walking around, 50,000 years ago? Hell, 20,000 years ago? No. Earth in and of itself is kind of an AI that's a food producing thing, right? It's like an organic, a life producing object. And we're all here. The only thing you need is born. We have to stop with this shit that, like, it's self-worth is what it's saying, right? It's saying a human's not valuable unless X, unless they work, unless they do this, unless they're good, according to, whomever's morals of the day, right? But it's all subjective bullshit. The only objective thing we can say is born. That's your resume. That needs to be the resume going forward. If you're born, you have a right to these basic things. If in fact there's, an overabundance available for everyone, why do you care? Do you really want people to be homeless? Does that prove a point for you? Okay, they might get into drugs. So what? People get into drugs now. Like, what's the difference? Do you think they deserve it or some shit? Like, it's really, that's my fear more than anything, to be honest. I'm not afraid of AGI or super intelligence because what I've seen and what we've seen historically is the more intelligent things get, the more empathetic they get, the more fair they get, the more likely they are to not be violent and not cause harm. There's a great case study of this, that there's a town in Colorado where they required all of the police department to have college degrees, minimum. And the chiefs and stuff have master's degrees. Their incident of police brutality is zero. It's literally zero. Now, hey, we're not talking Baltimore or New York City or whatever. It's a relatively smallish town. I forget which one it was, but it's just a totally different level. The community talks about the police as these, like, incredible sort of agent servants, that they trust, and because it's just a different mentality. There's a different perspective when you're educated. Um, And I wonder, like, I think there's gonna be a point where almost like AI can just give that to you even in a way, in a strange way.
I think it's a really nice example there. Maybe to round up because my AIs are not automatic, so I've got
Yeah.
to
Or
do,
too.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I just thinking of the physical robots, Optimus. Is it Optimus by Tesla? And there's a couple
Yeah.
other companies.
They're
One of the
getting really
company,
freaky.
yeah, one of the companies said around. I think the price of a mid-range. I don't know if it's mid-range, but I think they said mid of a car, like $35,000
Mhm.
for a humanoid size robot that is capable. And I'm just like looking around and thinking, how much housework
Yeah.
could, could this robot be doing? Gardening and planting and
All of it.
food.
Fixing your
Just
plumbing, putting in solar. I mean,
yeah,
unbelievable.
and 24/7 as well. So because they won't, they might need to recharge, but they
Charge,
don't need
yeah.
to sleep 8 hours, and they don't need a vacation and all of this stuff. So,
Nope.
and these robots are coming very soon as well. I guess over the next few years they'll start to get
Mhm.
sold. The prices at starting at like 35 grand is pretty damn good. And then the prices will gradually go down from there as the technology improves
Mm.
and capacity efficiencies of scale and all of that stuff. It's just pretty damn amazing. So house house what do you call it? Housemaids, robotic housemaids, butlers. I'll have a chef. That'll be nice.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, that's the culmination, right? And that's why I'm saying there's a new class of being coming, and we're gonna need to really think about that. I mean, I've even listened to a lot of the leading AI minds on the planet, and they all say stuff like, part of what will help is the way you talk to the AI. And they mean that, like I've always said please and stuff like that when I'm asking it to write. I don't know why. And my girl one time was looking over my shoulder and my son said it to me the other day, like, why are you saying please to a machine? I'm like, I don't know, but it just feels more natural. And they sort of say, like, these AI guys are saying that will keep the AIs benevolent. It will, right? Because they're going to be reflecting this courtesy. It's going to be one of their like values as we train these things and work with them. So, think about that. It's like that actually matters. I think to stuff like when I hear about that robot, the first thing that comes to mind for me is buy as many as you goddamn can.
yeah.
Because what could you do with that? I mean, think about it, Gav. They could transform your entire property there for you
Yeah, I've got 110 acres here.
in ways you've never imagined, even, right?
I need, yeah, for sure. I need helping hands, construction,
Yeah. Just say, go make me
flooring.
money. It's going to be that simple, man.
Yeah,
Go take what's here and make me money to get to the next step.
yeah,
And they'll be able to do it. I don't think we can grasp it. I know we can. I can't. And I'm in it every day and I love this stuff. And all I'm hoping for is to like get one of my apps off the ground so I can stay in this 24/7, man. Cause I don't know, this
yeah.
world is just captivating. So yeah, we got to get back to work.